Play on both sides of the ball in the NFL, just like he did in college. He's been missing practice time with what the team describes as an upper body injury. Not going to play in the Jaguars preseason finale, but head coach Liam Cohen saying yesterday that it's just about getting him ready for the regular season, and that if it was a game that counted, he would be able to play. And another rookie, first-rounder Derrick Harmon of the Steelers, left last night's game with what Coach Mike Tomlin said afterwards was a knee sprain. They're sending him for further testing today. We're awaiting word on how severe that injury is. It sounds like he might have to miss some time just because we're so close to the start of the season. But stay tuned on Derrick Harmon, a big part of the Steelers' plans on defense
Absolutely.
this year.
That would be a terrible shame for a team trying to get off to a fast start. They play that fascinating opener, Aaron Rodgers at the Jets. His former team. Meanwhile, speaking of Rodgers, the former Steeler quarterback Ben Roethlisberger predicted back in May the Steelers would win 11 games this year. Then he went and watched Aaron Rodgers at camp. He now has a different prediction. Listen.
Watching Aaron work, he threw one pass, and as he was starting to walk over me, I was like, man, tell you what, one thing doesn't stop working, and that's that arm. Like his arm looks good. And at some point before the season starts, I'm going to go back through my book, my football notebook. And I might have to readjust my pick for the season in wins and losses.
So we've heard that from a couple of different places. People see Aaron, they see how he throws the football, and they think to themselves, wait a minute, he's a lot better than we were expecting. Now, in fairness, that was never going to be the issue, right? His ability to, when he's 65, he'll be able to sling it. There are some guys who are like that. The question is, you were paid to watch every snap of Jets football last year. Do you believe that with better coaching, and it couldn't be worse than what the Jets had last year, winning around the margins, probably a better team and everything else, that Aaron Rodgers is still good enough to carry this team to more than 11 wins?
Absolutely. And I've been on this, and I was saying, hey, I believe the Jets should have kept him because he's a year more removed from the Achilles injury. So now he's back to being who he is. And listen, that's not the only report, hearing from Ben. Willie Colon, who I do the Jets postgame with, is a former Steeler who went down there and saw the same thing. He's the biggest Aaron Rodgers skeptic. He came back and said, he back. He back 100. And if he's back to a quarter of what he was before, then 10-7 Steelers last year, I think his plus his WAR would be 2 games.
Brooke, you're there every single day. For those of you who don't know, Brooke is our Steelers reporter. So you've literally watched every second of his time there. Does it look as good on the field as someone like Ben is suggesting?
It does and it doesn't, right? Because, yes, the arm talent is great, but that was never the question. The question is, he took so long to sign. He has to have this expedited chemistry with the offense, and that wasn't always there in training camp in Latrobe. I can't remember a signature deep shot that he completed to DK Metcalf or anybody else down the sideline. And maybe that's not going to be his game this season. He obviously doesn't have George Pickens. If he did, maybe that would be different. But I think that the question is, how much can he move? How mobile is he going to be? Can this offensive line protect him? None of the questions are, can his arm get the ball there?
And I think also the Achilles is important. And a year removed from that does give me a little bit more confidence because I think we are fascinated with his arm talent. But we have to remember, Aaron Rodgers at his peak was one of the creative guys, was one of the guys who get out of the pocket, who he's not a runner necessarily, but who used his athleticism to create angles and create big plays. So if his Achilles is better, obviously he's not going to go back to 28-year-old Aaron Rodgers level of athleticism, but enough to create some big plays. And I think what is inherent in all of this is that we're expecting the Steelers to be better support for him and him not to have to be MVP level.
So I did an essay yesterday here on the show. Nick, you were here, obviously. Brooke, you were here as well. It got a lot of reaction online, which I love. Some people agreeing, some people strongly disagreeing. That's the beauty of this. There were 2 stats that jumped out to me that I think were the most important. The first one I can show you, D20. Since Big Ben Roethlisberger left the Steelers, they are 17-2 in games in which they don't turn the ball over. Aaron Rodgers has the lowest interception percentage in NFL history. I know. I can hear you, and believe me, I saw you in your responses. The last couple of years, he has thrown more interceptions. He has to be the Aaron Rodgers who doesn't turn the ball over for this to succeed. The other stat, and Bart, you know this one better than anybody. Mike Tomlin always wins games that are decided by 6 points or fewer. He's won 65% of those games. The Jets were 0-7 in those games last year. That's the stuff around the margins. That's where the coaching makes the difference. Rodgers had them that close, and they weren't that good, and their coaching was, to be fair, inept. This is not. This is the opposite of that.
And they don't need Aaron Rodgers to be MVP Rodgers that he was before. They just need him to be able to make the play, get him in the right play with his football acumen, and be able to get them in the right situations to be successful. So the percentages, they're going to lean on his defense like the Steelers always do. But now you have a guy that when you look over and you see Patrick Mahomes, you see Lamar Jackson, you're not afraid because you got Mason Rudolph behind you and going against you. Saying, hey, I have a guy that can maybe find a way with his football acumen, his skill set, and his experience to exploit the defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pressure that we're putting on Aaron now is not the same that was being put on him before, which is why we're high on him. But I do still think that obviously the coaching matters at the end of the game, but the quarterback matters a lot too. And the question is, like, we were excited about Aaron Rodgers in practice last year and excited about him in practice the year before. Of course, the injury threw it off. So I think they'll be the Steelers, so they're going to be around, whether they can take that step to be further, and also the expectations.
Right.
They need to win a playoff game.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it would be worse, though, if we went through all of this and practice was terrible. Right. I mean, he is passing all the tests that are being put in front of him. He's trimming everyone. He's trimming Ben Roethlisberger. That's not easy to do.
I think
game. Yeah, Bucci, I think the biggest position I'm watching is the offensive line. They've invested a lot of young talent in that group, and that group is young. And I think it was, a big deal. Those guys play a lot of snaps this preseason because I think if they'll go as far as this offensive line will go, we know that Aaron Rodgers is 41 years old. He doesn't move like he once did. And I think the offensive line has to be able to create those running lanes and protect Aaron Rodgers, because you don't want your 41-year-old quarterback running for his life back there. If that offensive line can play together, this Pittsburgh Steelers team can have a chance to make some noise in the postseason.
And they open up the season at the Jets. That's juicy. From the vet to the rook, some positive flashes shown from Jackson Dart against New England. Pats seem like they have a lot of holes to plug.
Steelers Nation, we need to talk. Final score in Charlotte, Steelers 19, Panthers 10. On paper, it's a win. We finished the preseason on top, the defense made plays, the offense showed flashes, and some young guys stepped up when called upon. But let's be honest, this doesn't feel like a victory lap. It feels like a gut punch, because while we got the win, we may have lost something far more important: the health of two of our players. And if you were watching the same game I was watching, the bright side, depth players deliver. Before we dive into the heartbreak, let's at least give some credit where it's due. Kicker Ben Sauls looked rock solid, going 4 for 4 on field goals, including 3 in the second half. Special teams often get overlooked, but when you're grinding out tight AFC North battles against Baltimore, Cleveland, or Cincinnati, you need a kicker you can trust. Tonight, Sauls gave us confidence. Quarterback Skylar Thompson was sharp, completing 11 of 13 passes for 152 yards and a beautiful touchdown strike to Lance McCutcheon from 24 yards out. That's efficiency, that's poise, and that's exactly what you want out of your backup QB. If something ever happens to Rodgers during the season, and let's be real, at age 41, it's always a possibility, you need a guy who won't completely implode under pressure. Thompson proved tonight that he can steady the ship. Scotty Miller popped off the stat sheet too. 3 catches, 82 yards, and plenty of burst. That's the kind of performance that forces coaches to keep you on the 53-man roster. And running back Trey Sermon ran hard, averaging nearly 10 yards a carry. Depth guys stepping up is always a positive takeaway. So yeah, there were positives, but the gut punch. Derrick Harmon's injury. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. The moment that broke every fan's heart came in the second quarter when rookie first-round pick Derrick Harmon went down. The kid who's been one of the absolute standouts of camp. The defensive lineman we drafted 21st overall. The guy who was supposed to help change the trenches for us. When Harmon hit the turf, you could feel the energy in the stadium shift. And then the cart came out. That silence, that pit in your stomach, it felt like deja vu because we've been here before as Steelers fans. We've seen promising rookies or young stars go down early. David DeCastro, Bud Dupree, and of course the one that still hurts to even say out loud, Ryan Shazier. Mike Tomlin confirmed after the game it's a knee sprain, but tests are still being run. Best case scenario, maybe it's just a couple of weeks. Worst case scenario, we're looking at something far more serious. And if it's serious, then our defensive front just lost one of its brightest young pieces before he ever got a chance to make his mark. Cam Hayward walked alongside Harmon as he was carted off. That image sticks with you. The veteran warrior comforting the rookie who was supposed to be the next building block of this defense. Steelers Nation, that's the kind of stuff that makes your heart sink. Brandon Johnson's foot injury. And if that wasn't enough, wide receiver Brandon Johnson also went down with a foot injury in the first half. Now, Johnson isn't a household name. He's not DK Metcalf, he's not Pat Freiermuth. But this guy was grinding for a roster spot, flashing in practice, making the most of his snaps. And don't forget, our wide receiver depth chart is thin beyond the starters. Losing a guy like Johnson, even if it's just for a couple weeks, hurts the chemistry Rodgers is still trying to build with this new group. It's a tough blow for a player who fought his way back into the league, earned his way into the conversation, and had his receivers coach backing him all offseason. And now his momentum is stalled by something completely out of his control. What this means for the Steelers. This is the part where reality kicks in. Derrick Harmon was not just another rookie. He was expected to be a day one starter on that defensive line. He was supposed to help shore up a unit that already has question marks about depth. Without him, the pressure falls squarely on guys like Isaiah Loudermilk, DeMarvin Leal, and Keanu Benton to fill the gap. And for Brandon Johnson, even if the injury isn't severe, the timing is brutal. We're days away from roster cuts. Every practice rep matters, and when you're competing against 8 other receivers for maybe 2 or 3 roster spots, losing time is losing ground. But here's the bigger picture. These injuries are a reminder of just how thin the margin is for this team. We've been hyping up Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, Jonnu Smith, all the flashy names. But football isn't just about stars. It's about the guys who do the dirty work in the trenches, the role players who step up when called on. And if we're going to compete with the Bengals, the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Bills, you need depth. And tonight, that depth took a hit. Aaron Rodgers and the great unknown, which brings me back to the quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. The man hasn't played a single preseason snap. Mike Tomlin insists he's seen enough in practice to be confident, and hey, it's Rodgers. We know the arm talent is still there. But here's the problem. Practice chemistry isn't the same as live game chemistry. He still hasn't had real reps with DK Metcalf or Jonnu Smith in a game setting. So when we open the season against the Jets, his former team, in one of the hyped openers of the year, what Rodgers are we going to get? The poised veteran who makes everyone around him better? Or the guy who struggles to adapt to new pieces, who leans too much on familiarity he doesn't have here? That's the million-dollar question, Steelers Nation. Perspective for the season ahead. Let's zoom out for a second. The positives. We've got depth pieces proving themselves. We've got Rodgers, Metcalf, Freiermuth, and Warren on offense. We've got Watt, Highsmith, Fitzpatrick, and Hayward anchoring the defense. The talent is there. The negatives. Injuries, chemistry, and youth on the offensive line. That's the trifecta that could derail us if things go wrong. We've seen Tomlin drag lesser teams into the playoffs before. We've seen this franchise defy the odds. But we've also seen how thin the line is between competing for January football and packing it in by December. Steelers Nation, it's on you. Now, I want to hear from you. Steelers Nation, talk to me in the comments. How heartbroken were you seeing Derrick Harmon leave on the cart? Do you trust the depth on this defense to hold up until he's back? Are you worried that Rodgers didn't play a single preseason snap, or do you trust his experience to carry us through? Drop your takes below. Let's light it up like we always do. Closing thoughts. At the end of the day, yes, it's a preseason win. Yes, it's 19-10. But when you watch one of your most promising rookies go down, the scoreboard just doesn't matter as much. This season was already shaping up to be one of the most fascinating in recent Steelers history. Tonight, the stakes just got even higher. Steelers Nation, if you felt the same mix of pride and heartbreak tonight, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you've got notifications on, because here at Steelers Nation Wire, we ride the highs, we feel the lows, and we never stop talking about the black and gold. This is going to be a season of drama, resilience, and maybe even redemption, and we're going to be here together every step of the way. Here we go, Steelers.